Coming up tonight in Our News, the Prime Minister outlines a major investment in Abaco. Meanwhile, an important heads of agreement set to be signed in March. Carnival Cruise Lines promises major investments, and the Labour Minister puts an end to a strike.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, a $300 million five-star residential resort and marina development has been approved for construction in South Abaco, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. The announcement came in his first national address for 2020. Berthany McDermott reports.
In his first national address for the year, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said this new project will provide jobs for Abaconians in the aftermath of the storm. But he didn't stop there. The Prime Minister also used the opportunity to defend his government's decision to borrow $500 million post-Dorian. Minnis spoke extensively about recovery and reconstruction efforts on the two islands hardest hit by Hurricane Dorian back in September. The project is expected to provide a variety of entrepreneurial opportunities for Abaconians in areas like agriculture, fisheries, and heritage tourism. The Sandy Point Airport will also be expanded and enhanced.
This development will include a full-size golf course. The heads of agreement for this development is scheduled to be signed tomorrow in Abaco. The project is expected to employ approximately 600 people during the construction phase and thereafter.
The announcement comes as Abaconians still struggle to piece their lives together 5 months after the storm. Thousands lost their homes and more than 70 people died. Minnis noted that it's estimated that Dorian cost the Bahamas $3.4 billion in losses and damage. Recently, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest announced that government is seeking to borrow $587.9 million to cover revenue shortfall and expenditure increase after the storm. The move did not sit well with the opposition. However, Minnis hit back with this.
When we assumed office in May 2017, public finances were in a disastrous state. Our predecessors borrowed money in large amounts. They also misspent money in large amounts. The borrowing is essential and necessary in ensuring that Bahamians have the help they need as we emerge from the worst storm in our history. Those who criticize the borrowing seek to deny Bahamians in Abaco and Grand Bahama the help government should deliver in crisis.
The Prime Minister also revealed that government spent $1.7 million on social assistance to Bahamians affected by Dorian. He said the Department of Social Services continues to provide rental assistance to those displaced by the storm.
It has assisted some 514 families and paid out more than $700,000 to Grand Bahamians. Also, appliance assistance continues with some 300 applications processed to the value of $400,000.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
More than a year after purchasing Grand Lucayan Resort, government will sign a heads of agreement for the sale of the resort on Grand Bahama on March 2nd, according to Prime Minister Minnis. The first phase of the development is projected to cost $195 million over 2 years.
In order to restore the lives of people of Abaco and Grand Bahama, we must boost economic activity and development on both islands. On March 2nd, we will sign a heads of agreement for the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort and Casino. This will help with the long-term recovery and renewal of Grand Bahama. It will result in scores of jobs during reconstruction and development, and long-term employment, business and entrepreneurial opportunities for the residents of Grand Bahama.
In March 2019, government signed a letter of intent with Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited and the ITM Group for the purchase of the resort for $65 million on the redevelopment of the Freeport Harbor. The proposed joint venture between RCL and ITM would include the redevelopment of Grand Lucayan Resort into a world-class destination featuring water-based family entertainment, dining, gaming and entertainment options, and 5-star hotel accommodations. Carnival Cruise Lines will invest millions over the next 2 years in water waste treatments as well as training to avoid discharges in Bahamian waters. The company's executive speaking on the environmental concern as it hosts Bahamian media in Miami. Kyle Joaquin is there and has more.
The policy around the archipelagic baseline of the Bahamas was not always clearly understood.
Speaking candidly with reporters, Carnival Corporation's Senior VP of Maritime Policy explained that for years the company wasn't clear on the boundaries and archipelagic makeup of the Bahamas, which he says explains why there have been discharges in Bahamian waters.
We've taken a lot of effort to make sure training was in place to ensure our ships understand it well, and that once that was understood, I think we've certainly reduced the risk of those types of incidents occurring.
This comes as the Bahamas government works to implement new laws aimed at punishing the growing number of cruise ships that discharge waste in Bahamian waters. The most recent was Norwegian Cruise Lines. A U.S. court-appointed monitor just last month provided a damning critique of Carnival's internal culture and attitude towards the environment, despite already having been fined $40 million and put on a 5-year probation. And on Tuesday, Carnival execs met with Bahamian media at its headquarters in Miami, where it explained what went wrong and how the company is working to fix it.
We've made a ton of policy changes, particularly with respect to taking a more conservative approach to our discharge policies, and we've put that in place probably for the last year and a half to 2 years, and we're showing significant improvement as a result.
Carnival Corporation now investing $48 million over the next 2 years in advanced wastewater treatments. If you were to look at a breakdown, Carnival has reported 21 sewage regulatory issues between April 2017 and March 2018. The company then reported 10 issues between April 2018 and March 2019, with an even further reduction of issues reported to 7 between April 2019 and August 2019. In addition, the company is going beyond the global standard of discharging treated waste 3 miles outside of countries' boundaries.
Last year we implemented a even more conservative policy than just following, in this case, international law, such that we now have all of our corporate policies to be outside of 12 nautical miles from the baseline, whereas 3 nautical miles is the international standard.
From Miami, for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest defending the government's decision to borrow more than $500 million, insisting it was either borrow the money or hike taxes. However, his message did not hit home with Progressive Liberal Party Deputy Leader Chester Cooper, who called the Minister administration's fiscal strategy cruel, insensitive and ill-planned. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Deputy Prime Minister spent much of his mid-year budget communication explaining why the government will be borrowing even more money, as he says that it was either that or increased taxes.
Although we have a large budget gap to close in the immediate term, this is just not a viable option. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times, the government will not be increasing taxes.
Turnquest made the comments as he led debate on the supplementary budget in the House of Assembly on Wednesday morning. He insisted the government had very few options to meet the huge financial obligations left behind by Hurricane Dorian, which caused widespread destruction in Abaco and Grand Bahama.
From time to time, circumstances have a way of putting this solemn promise to the test. They have a way of checking whether this nation is truly a family of islands.
Turnquest said the damage and losses to infrastructure alone comes in at over $450 million. The government has allocated $214 million in capital projects over the next 3 years, $11.4 million toward unemployment benefits, along with other expenses. Additionally, Turnquest said the government received a $12.8 million payout from its Caribbean Catastrophic Insurance Facility and another $20 million from dormant accounts.
We have $540.7 million in new and necessary financing requirements, and only $32.8 million is offsetting income.
The government is seeking parliamentary approval to borrow $587.9 million to cover the revenue shortfall and expenses associated with Hurricane Dorian. But opposition Deputy Leader Chester Cooper says nothing can be worse than the country's current fiscal reality.
It's cruel and insensitive and ill-timed. Now, Mr. Speaker, a government who has promoted themselves as the people's government, a government who has promoted these difficult times as the people's time, must now speak to the people and answer their questions. The people want to know that this administration has borrowed $3 billion and it has very little to show for it.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Still to come on Our News. Day 2 of the Water and Sewage Union strike, plus the British High Commission reopens. Stay tuned, guys.
Phone is good. Internet is good. TV is good. But why just pick one thing when you can have everything with Tria? Only $99 a month gets you phone, internet, and cable. That's everything you need for $99 a month. Ask for Tria. Call 601-2200 or email residentialsales@cablebahamas.com. Rev, you and us together.
A strike action by employees of the Water and Sewage Corporation's line staff union was ended by the Labour Minister just hours ago. Meanwhile, drama earlier in the day left both union presidents slamming the corporation's chairman. In a statement released on Wednesday afternoon, folks said, pursuant to Section 76 of the Industrial Relations Act, I have considered that the strike action taken has threatened the public interest. I have therefore referred the disputes which have given rise to the strike actions to the Industrial Tribunal. In accordance with the said act, all parties to the dispute have been notified in writing. Before that announcement by the Labour Minister, water and sewage employees engaged in a second day of strike action. Dozens of employees started where they left off on the previous day, gathering under a tent with music playing, snacks, drinks, and dominoes. Woods took aim at Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson, repeating calls for his resignation. He also slammed the corporation for an early morning armed law enforcement presence.
This morning we arrived to work, and what we met was a full platoon of Defense Force officers with full artillery, toting M16s and AK-47s.
Also slamming Gibson's leadership was Management Union President Montgomery Miller. Earlier this week, Our News reported that Ednal Roll was the Management Union's president. However, Labour Director John Pinder says Miller is the guy. Meanwhile, Roll still claims to be president, and the issue is a subject of a court matter before Justice Indra Charles. Today, Miller also lamented the presence of armed officers on Water and Sewage's compound.
Royal Bahamas Defense Force has been called in to our operations on the Ministry of Works compound with guns, turned it into a military zone. And so this is a concern.
Now, Gibson told reporters this afternoon that the reason for the RBDF presence was to protect a new installation from sabotage. He added that he expects all workers back on the job tomorrow. Head of British Diplomatic Service Sir Simon MacDonald officially reopened the new UK High Commission today. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis attended today's opening ceremony.
The Bahamas is delighted to see the reopening of the British High Commission, which I am confident will serve to deepen the warm relationship that already exists between our two nations. This reopening symbolizes and reaffirms the commitment of the United Kingdom to our long shared history and our bilateral relations in matter of mutual interest, bilaterally, regionally, and multilaterally.
The British High Commission closed in June 2005. Her Excellency Sarah Dixon will serve as High Commissioner to the Bahamas. The last resident British High Commissioner to the Bahamas was Roderick Gemmell, who passed away last week. Sir Simon said the reopening of the High Commission will strengthen the relationship between the Bahamas and the UK.
I think we can all agree that the reopening of the High Commission in Nassau is a hugely positive step for the British government and for our relationship with the Bahamas. This is the direct outcome of our Prime Minister Boris Johnson's promise made at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London when he was Foreign Secretary to deepen our ties.
Minnis also took the opportunity to thank the UK for its assistance in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian.
We wish to extend our thanks to the United Kingdom for its military assistance and donations in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, and for consistently remaining in touch with us since its passage. We are grateful for the immediate response efforts of the RAF Mounts Bay, which was stationed in Abaco and included the use of helicopter services provided to assist with assessing the damages, and also one of your ships which helped with delivering supplies.
When Our News comes back from the break, as Valentine's Day approaches, one young couple shares its secret for a successful marriage. Stay tuned.
Phone is good. Internet is good. TV is good. But why just pick one thing when you can have everything with Tria? Only $99 a month gets you phone, internet, and cable. That's everything you need for $99 a month. Ask for Tria. Call 601-2200 or email residentialsales@cablebahamas.com. Rev, you and us together.
Welcome back. A good love story doesn't always have to include a ton of highs and lows, according to one young couple. Ken and LaDonya Pratt say sometimes it's just about taking a good thing and making it even better. Giorgio Bain sits down with them in this edition of Our Love Story.
Our Love Story is brought to you by Hello Baby, the ultimate baby essentials store.
Let me introduce you to a love that sprung to life at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center. I know what you're thinking, not as patients but as workers. LaDonya, a registered nurse, and Ken, a patient care technician. Although they both grew up in Freeport and went to school together, Ken and LaDonya had no idea that one day they would be husband and wife. LaDonya swears it was Ken who made the first move, but he tells a much different story.
I came to work one day, but of course we were friends and we started to talk, and then she asked me, she said, "Hey Ken, I went to message you one day, but I didn't have your number." So I was like, okay, we'll go on with the rest of it. Then I was like, you want my number, eh?
After 2 years of inseparable dating, Ken knew that she was the one for him, and now he says he's found his everything.
My wife is like, for me, living proof that there's a God. Because only something with like divine intelligence gonna make something so perfect for me. Someone who always have my corner, my best friend.
And while she is his reason to believe, LaDonya says Ken is the reason she now believes in herself.
He's helped me to be more confident in myself, always pushing me, never putting me in compromising positions or positions where I feel afraid or I feel like I can't trust you. And he's always been consistent with that, always trusting, always been loyal. And that has brought me so much peace and so much like, finally, someone who actually cares for me.
The couple will celebrate their 6th wedding anniversary in May. At just 32 and 30 years old, LaDonya gave us the couple's secret to avoiding temptation and staying committed.
For us, we always try to make our relationship about having fun together. So I have my friends who I want to have fun with. He has his friends who we want to have fun with. But at the end of the day, we want to come back and we want to have fun with each other.
At the same time, Ken says it's about creating the perfect love with an imperfect person.
Like I can make noise because a shoe on the floor. You know what I mean? I just can move the shoe.
For the single and dating persons out there, the Pratts advise that you take time to know yourself and never settle when it comes to selecting your partner. For Our Love series, I'm Giorgio Bain.